At this time, we will meet in executive session if we have our other members present themselves, and we will move to full commission. As an executive session, if there are any motions made, they must be made by executive committee and seconds by executive committee until the full commission is here, and then anyone who is a commissioner can do so. So the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. This is our meeting for May 19th. Currently an executive board meeting, hopefully soon to be a full commission meeting. We will notify you when and if that happens. I would like to turn to the attorney for an announcement regarding the appointment.
Mr. Chairman, we've received notification from the town of La Crosse that La Crosse's appointment to the commission will be Justin Keel, who is with us this morning. Justin, why don't you raise your hand? I told Justin he looks like, we don't have to card him, he looks like to be a member of this audience. But welcome, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. We are at item number 2 at this point, and that would be a presentation. We have a guest today, and our guest is Natalie Johnson. She is from the Northwest Indiana Urban Waters area, and she is the coordinator. And she is from Purdue University, so we're awfully glad to see you.
Well,
Boilermakers, always glad to see more Boilermakers.
Thank you for that introduction. So yes, I am with the Northwest Indiana Urban Waters Partnership, and I am housed at Purdue University Calumet, and I have the perfect topic to start your mornings off.
Oh, yeah.
And that is on septic systems. I have invested way too much of my life into this, but you know what? It's a very interesting topic to me, and it's something that I want to share with you today. Let me know which way I can say. I feel bad putting my back to everyone.
I got your back.
So very quickly, we know we have these beautiful waterways. We have this upper half draining to our Lake Michigan. So basically anything going in these lakes, rivers, streams are affecting our beaches. And we know that unfortunately we have great impairments that come with these waterways. We have many, way too many, that are impaired by high E. coli. And when we talk about high E. coli, we know that that's coming from either fecal sources, from humans, could be animals. We tend to think of combined sewer overflows. We tend to think of maybe cattle in the streams. Well, we've been looking at this for a long time, and we being the people who work in water quality, and have been thinking, okay, we know that there's not a whole bunch of cattle in the streams up near the top of the near Lake Michigan. We know that there aren't always combined sewer overflows going on unless there's a heavy wet weather event, and yet we still see high E. coli. The culprit that we're coming to look at now are failing septic systems. Now, a lot of us think of failing septic systems, we think of septic systems in general as, well, that's the rural area. They're not in the urban area, but guess what? We have thousands upon thousands in the Lake Michigan watershed. Most of us don't think about them because they're underground, kind of that out of sight, out of mind mentality. But if you look, this is kind of how a septic system normally functions. You have it, the wastewater, going from your drains, your toilets, your sinks, going into this treatment tank, working some magic in there with these enzymes and chemicals, that's breaking down inside the tank, and it's moving through an absorption field where the rest of the soil, then it goes percolating through the soil, and as it goes down before entering the water table, it's able to experience further treatment. We also have people that have seepage pits or dry wells. The same principle applies. Goes through the tank where some treatment takes place, goes through the seepage pit, and before it hits that water table, some treatment is taking place. Now, in Northwest Indiana, why are failing septic systems a problem here? Well, we have some conditions that are different than some of the places across the nation. First and foremost, we really don't have adequate soil for these systems to be placed. 80% of the area draining in northwest Indiana to Lake Michigan, it's mostly sand. We know that. We go out there, we take a shovel, it's mostly sand. If you think about a septic system and it's filtering things out through the absorption field, it's straight into the water table. It doesn't have a chance to be treated. So we have that working against us. Lifespan and public records. First off, septic systems are only supposed to be functioning for about 11 to 30 years. And some of you might even be thinking now, oh my gosh, how old is my septic system? But we are all aware that there are septic systems that are out there that have lived way beyond that lifespan. And also, if you think about it, we know that public records only show septic systems that were permitted from the 60s and beyond. Again, thinking about the homes that are in northwest Indiana, we have homes that have been here a lot longer. So septic systems out there that we have no record of. We also have a high water table. So I said that things are coming from that absorption field or that seepage pit, and it's basically filtering through the soil before it gets to the water table. Think about the fact that there always needs to be a 2-foot buffer between it coming from there and before it hits the water table. Well, unfortunately, we have high water tables just here. You see in 2016 in LaPorte, I just pulled up some of the records in LaPorte County. 1.5 feet water table from the top. That means your septic system is basically underwater. So again, in northwest Indiana, the conditions, not necessarily right for septic systems. And then little to no regulation, unfortunately, is something that plagues us as well. We have LaPorte County, who is advancing the charge when it comes to regulation and being able to keep track of when new systems go in, how often they're being maintained and cared for. While in the other counties, they're working towards those, but we're not there yet. And then that's only for new systems. We're not talking about the old ones that are out there that we may not even know about. When it comes down to it, septic systems need proper maintenance and care. And it is the homeowner's responsibility to make sure that that care happens. Here's kind of that checklist of what do you need to do. And we're actually going to send this home with all of you today because you all want to know more about those things to do regarding septic system care and maintenance. But most people don't know of all these how to properly maintain a septic system. Things like making sure your fats, oils, greases don't go down the drain. The fact that if you have a septic system, you are not supposed to have a garbage disposal. Most people don't know things like that. They think, I flush it, it's gone. Oh, I use Rid-X. That is the solution. Where in all reality, we have sound science behind that that says, no, Rid-X does not adequately help, harm, do anything to help with your septic system. So I said I've invested way too much time in this. I really have. I in fact did my entire master's thesis on this and conducted all my research in northwest Indiana to try and understand what homeowners know about their septic systems. And sadly, not much. A lot of people thought they were more knowledgeable than what they were, but in fact, they had things like, well, I pump my septic system when it's full. Well, how do you know when it's full? Well, I just know. What does that mean, really? So there's a lot of misinformation out there. You know, I said that the people, yes, they didn't know, they had the limited knowledge. They used Rid-X as a solution when really, if you're using Rid-X, don't use it. You're wasting your money. No connection with the fact that if a system fails, that could be affecting those beach closures, beach advisories. It could be affecting your public health. It could be affecting the environment. They always were quick to blame that the high E. coli in Lake Michigan was combined sewer overflows and nothing else. And yet we know for a fact, combined sewer overflows, when they're not happening, we have that high E. coli, and in no place that cattle are traversing. And most participants in Northwest Indiana that I did focus groups, I did surveys, most of them did not think that failing septic systems were a problem in their community. Again, that mentality of out of sight, out of mind. So what are we doing about it? Well, the big we is we have a septic system coordination work group of many, many different organizations, including Save the Dunes, who is here today. These organizations are really taking the task to go out there and create an outreach and education campaign that is meaningful to people. We want to get the word out. We want to dispel the myth that Rid-X is your only solution. We want people to know the different maintenance and care practices and not be able to just say, well, I just know. It's just when it's full. We want them to know that you are supposed to pump your septic system every 3 to 5 years. We want them to know that it's once a year, have it inspected. See, I'm preaching a little bit. We want them to know what cannot go down there. We want them to know that if they have a garbage disposal, they really should consider disconnecting it because it's going to cost them more money in the long run. And it could cost them their beach season. You know, we had 136 beach closures and advisories in 2015. Even more, 209 in 2014. And septic systems very well could be the culprit. And it's on all of us responsible homeowners to be good neighbors and to make sure that these are functioning appropriately. So, my ask to you all today, would you be willing to participate in some kind of survey, not right this second, but if we send this out via Mary after today, would you be able to participate in a survey that allows us to know how we can work in your community to get this right information out? Because guess what? We have to look to you, the leaders. When we come and we say, hey, septic systems, people are saying, I already know. I don't need more information. And so we look to you to be our ambassadors, the Septic System Coordination Work Group. We need your help to really say, hey, this is a problem in our community, or could be a problem if we don't take care of it now. We want to be a good, responsible community. Let's do the right thing. So help us by how do we get this information out? Telling us that information. So that's my big ask to you, is after all this is done today, you'll see a short survey come out. That's anonymous. And we want to, again, find out how do we get the right information out. So, it's important to us, should be important to you and your community members, because septic systems, again, nobody's thinking about it, but we've got to start thinking about it now. So if this has really piqued your interest, we have an awesome video that Nicole here is going to be passing out the little strips of paper. It's also found at savedunes.org. Septic awareness.
And a brochure.
And a brochure. Because you might just want to know about how septic systems work. You might want to know more about those practices that are put in here. I encourage you to take this information and just stick it on your community website. When I interviewed people, they said, well, most of the time we just go local to look for our information. You are the local. You are the people they are looking to. So help us, help you, get the right information out.
Thank you, Natalie. Appreciate it.
You are more than
Are there any
welcome.
questions for Natalie?
Please. I mean, I spent a lot of time interviewing and focus grouping. I'd love to answer questions.
Yes.
I think it's important to remember that the counties and cities aren't responsible for enforcement, inspection, and care of the septic systems. Those are your county health departments. So we need to make sure our citizens know who they need to talk to in the end. It's important because most of us are under federal water quality mandates that are also enforced at the state level. So we need to follow through with this. However, in the end,
Right.
your state board of health and your county health departments have control over this whole process. And they are being proactive about it. such as they can in the confines of what the statutes tell them to do.
I'm glad that you brought that up because most people don't know. They call their sanitary district, or they call their mayor's office. What do? I don't even know if I have a septic system. And now you all know the appropriate person to send them to is their local county health department.
Any other
That's where to send them.
Thank you, Natalie. We appreciate the information.
My pleasure.
Okay, we do now have a full quorum, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. A report of the chair, one or two items quickly to bring to your attention. First of all, I believe it's important to mention that our executive director was featured in the latest issue of Northwest Indiana Business Magazine. Congratulations. Good for her. Yes, it's good for everybody to be recognized sometime or another, isn't it? We have also completed a task which was long in the making, but not always quick to do, and that was assignment of the committees. And this is our 50th year anniversary, and it's a good time to tweak the system a little bit. And as you know, Mayor Milo worked at the task of doing some reorganization of some committees and tweaking some things, and she had completed that, of course, and then her term expired, unfortunately, with my responsibility beginning to fill those commission seats. So, after several hours of meeting and going over your preferences and going over your locations, in some cases the committees require some balancing, that had to be done. We determined that no one should have more than 2 committee assignments, so we tried to give people the assignments that they either really preferred or didn't have an objection to taking, and took a firm stand on not putting you where you said you absolutely didn't want to. So bear with us. That information is going to be available at the end of the meeting in the lobby. Mary will have it, and we would like you to pick up your committee assignments at that point. We have 2 pieces of information. One is a description of the committee, the new committee, what it's supposed to do, how often it's supposed to meet, who's on it, and a general idea of what your obligations are on that committee. The other one is an alphabetical list, so you can find your name and find what committees you're on very quickly by looking at the alphabetical list. So we prepared 2 documents for you, and we would appreciate if you pick those up after the meeting. Now, we will make send an email out to the chairs and to the any commission members, so that you can contact each other and maybe have some pre-meeting conversations or some get acquainted conversations on email. Hopefully, we can get legs under this new committee structure as soon as possible. So this is a transition. We realize it's been a little time in the making, but we want to be very deliberate and try and put people in the right spots and doing the right things commensurate with their experience and their expertise and their talents and their wishes. So please bear with us. That information will be ready at the end of the meeting, and you can check it out from Mary out in the lobby. I don't have any other announcements from the chair. I will yield to the executive director.
Thank you, Mr. Tunn. Very briefly, first of all, I'm actually going to turn it directly over to Sarah Ganoski from our staff. I think many of you are aware of the Marquette plan and what good attention that's gotten in trying to improve access along the lakefront and try to deal with the area all along the coast of Lake Michigan. And we are underway now with the heavy implementation phase of that, as the essentially the 3rd section of that, or the Marquette Plan 2015, was adopted. And part of that Marquette Action Plan involves a survey that we've been trying to take in. And Sarah?
Yes.
Go for it.
So I just have a really quick announcement. We are working on the survey, trying to identify barriers for accessing Lake Michigan.
And as you see coming up now, there's a map in terms of where we've received responses to the survey. We're going to be closing up the survey in about the end of the month. And we're really making that final push to make sure that we hear from everybody. And as you can see, we've received a lot of responses. We've actually gotten about 625 responses so far, which is really, really great. But we really are making that extra effort. So if you haven't taken the survey, please take it. There are little cards out in the lobby that you can take. Additionally, we have the press release if you want to publicize the survey in your community. We are especially trying to make sure that the communities in North Lake County have a voice in this process. And so especially if you represent one of those communities, if you could push this survey through social media or on your website, that we would be really appreciative. It would make a big difference to what we're trying to do. But everybody else, we also want to hear from you too. So please take the survey. Please tell your friends about the survey. Tell your communities about the survey. And keep watching as we move forward with this plan. There'll definitely be a lot more opportunities to participate. Thank you. And if you have any questions, you can either find me after or ask me now, I guess.
Great, thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. I took the survey myself. It's painless. You'll love it. So it'll improve access to Lake Michigan, and I think the end results of this are going to just blow that Marquette plan. I almost said out of the water. That's a terrible pun. It'll be great. Throughout the region also, I think another thing I want to highlight today is because we had a great tour last week is the actions that NERC is doing regarding brownfield redevelopment. There was a brownfields tour last week that was very, very successful. I don't know if Kathy Luther's in the room, our Director of Environmental Programs, but wanted to give kudos to her for helping to set that up. That program is a revolving loan fund program that is in partnership with the Regional Development Authority, the RDA, and it's really great that the EPA has provided these funds to be able to clean up some of these sites. So we were able to take a tour and look at highlights in East Chicago and Gary and Hammond, and a very good day was had by last week, and very good economic development push for all three of those communities on that tour. Also wanted to let you know that the 2017-2018 Unified Planning Work Program, this is our document that's required as an MPO that really shows everything that NERC does. When I talked with Justin, whenever that was, a few weeks back, to give him a briefing on NERC and everything, he handed off this document about this thing, and I know it's great bedtime reading like I told you, but this is an important document that shows all the incredible stuff that NERC has been involved in with its partners and commissioners around the table. So that draft is online right now, and you can access it. There's a public comment going up until June 16th, and so that is available. That's all the informational items I have, but I think you know that often at these meetings we have staff award recognitions for years of service, and it so happens that Angie Hayes, our Director of Finance Administration, has been here 10 years. A lot of you have worked with Angie, if you've been on the Finance and Personnel Committee or another just assistance that you've gotten through your communities. We have had something like 9 or 10 years of, well, I know I'm not saying this to brag on NERC, but I know a lot of you have told me you're jealous of NERC's audits. They're that, they come out that clean with so few, we've hardly had any comments over a long period of time. Angie and her department are responsible for that. Not to mention, I think 3 years in a row we've gotten the award from the Governor's Finance Officers Association for excellence in financial reporting. But Angie is having her 10-year anniversary, so we have a certificate for you, so come on up. That's all I have. Thank you.
Finance and Personnel Committee, Treasurer Diane Knoll, you have 3 action items for us this morning, Diane?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finance and Personnel Committee met this morning, and the first item is the 2016 budget amendment. That is for $1,000, and these are all additional local funds to be spent for additional work on the Guides project. The FNP reviewed and recommends this budget for approval by the full commission. So I need a motion.
We have a motion. Second. And we have a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Next item.
Next item is on page 10, it's Resolution 16-19. This is the updated management plan for the LaPorte County Revolving Fund. It is required by the Economic Development Administration, and the FMP reviewed and recommended this for approval by the full commission, and I make a motion.
All right, we have a motion on 1619, and we have a second. Any further discussion on 1619?
What is our part in administering this fund?
We are the administrators of the fund. We keep the financial records. We're the depository of the funds. We facilitate the meeting of the LaPorte County Loan Fund, who actually makes the decisions on loaning money to LaPorte County businesses.
We're responsible for compliance.
Yes, we have extensive oversight by the feds and file reports on a regular basis as to the loans and the paybacks and whatnot.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Next item.
The next item you'll find on page 40, it's a procurement recommendation. This is to corridor study, the safety for the crossroads for I-65 and US 30 safety plan. It is in your packet, and the FMP reviewed and recommends this for approval. And I make the motion.
I have a motion. Second. And a second. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Procurement recommendation is approved. Item 7, Environmental Management Policy Committee, Mr. Benson.
On pages 41 through 44 are our approved minutes from the meeting in April, and the meeting was a combined meeting between Urban Waters and the EMPC, which was wonderful, and it was efficient for a combining meeting so that all the same people didn't have to go to others, and it utilized the Urban Waters partnership, which we are designated Urban Waters partnership area. Natalie, who spoke to you about the septic, is the coordinator for that, and it's a great opportunity to have all those federal partners and other partners included in our EMPC meeting as well. So hats off again to Kathy Luther. We have no action items, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Benson. Transportation Policy Committee, Mr. Decker is not present. We have Mr. Brightsky, I believe, prepared.
Yes. The Transportation Policy Committee met on May 10th. It heard a presentation from Carl Lessig, South Shore Clean Cities on the Northwest Indiana Green Fleet. The committee also heard a brief presentation on the progress of the 8090 Push project, upgrading the Indiana toll road from Lake Station to Elkhart. The following 7 items relate to the I-65 added travel lanes project, which is being recommended today as an amendment to the 2040 comprehensive plan. First is a public comment report on the I-65 added travel lanes project, and that's found on pages 50 to 53. Stephen Sesteri will now describe the report or the project.
Morning, everyone. On pages 50 to 53 of your agenda packet, forgive my thoroughly dog-eared copy. There's a lot of stuff I got to mark this week or this month. You will see the public comment report for the I-65 added travel lanes public comment period. This was a 30-day public comment period, went from March 16th to April 15th. And there was also one public meeting in Lowell. This fulfills the requirements as set forth in our 2014 public participation plan. This report is also fulfilling that with you'll see the format there, that spiffy little matrix. That's how it's laid out in the plan. I just like to say that to just sort of reinforce the work that was done with that and just show that, demonstrate that that's being followed. So The comments, as you can see, there were only a few comments, but they were pretty overwhelmingly positive. There was one that did express some concerns. However, no comments were deemed significant, meaning changing the intent of the, resulting in some sort of change to the intent or bounds of the project, things like that. So we do appreciate everybody who participated in the process, commented, etc. So this comment report was also obviously sent out in advance, included in the packet, and that's it. Any questions?
Where's it going from to?
So this is adding from State Road 2 to State Road 10. Previously, we had amendments for US 30 to 231, then 231 to State Road 2. So this is basically adding to that and having it go from State Road 2 down to State Road 10.
Where's the money coming from?
That would be an INDOT question.
What was the question?
Where's the money coming from for?
Because 65 is being worked on in a lot of different spots. That's consistent with the overall project, I imagine.
Actually, it was programmed into this year's budget. Well, actually, I think, yes, it was actually programmed into this year's budget through federal and state dollars. To begin this year, this fiscal year.
Other questions? Yes.
Mayor, this is part of in 2013, if you recall, we approved $400 million. It's actually one of the 7 cents of gasoline sales tax, and part of it went to locals and half of it went to the state, and well, it's roughly half. And what we did, this was part of that. This was part of the Ileana project, and then it was decided we'd go ahead with it, whatever happened to Ileana. And now going forward, instead of that money being allocated for congestion relief, going forward, now it's allocated for P&L.
I remember that. So when Ileana was being discussed, this was also the widening from 231 to 30, right? Okay. And ultimately, from the region to Indianapolis, is 65 going to be 3 lanes the entire trip?
I'm going to comment on it. I would really like that to happen. The issue is paying for it, and the priorities have, in the last few years since we started studying it carefully, take care of what we've got first. Second, finish what we've started, i.e. 31, 69, and so forth, and then build for the future. And the whole issue, some of us would argue that we should be 6 lanes border to border on I-70 and I-65. It's how we're going to pay for it, and that's what the first committee is supposed to address this.
I know, like, down by Lafayette, they're working on 3 lanes in each direction. It seems like in the region they're doing the same thing, so we're going in the right direction, right?
But I used to rarely drive south of Indianapolis. When you get in that Louisville segment, it's really starting to, and I harp on the same subject all the time. When the Panama Canal is finished and they move a lot of that traffic going to Long Beach, to Baltimore, Norfolk, I've seen numbers as high as 50% increase on 8094, which affects you. And so that's where we're at. It's not a pretty picture when you look at it now.
I have a question. Not traveling I-65 to the north end, what is it from the beginning down to State Road 2 as far as lanes? How many lanes is it now at presently?
It's 2.
It's 2, so it's going to go 2 to 3, back to 2?
Correct.
So just consider that segment?
Well, it'll be 3 continuously because we're expanding it to 3 back to 2 at 10.
At Highway 10.
At 10.
There'll be 2 lanes at 10.
So no, it's not going to go 3 to 3. It's going to go 3 continuously to 10.
Okay, but I'm saying from 2 north, it's 3 now?
Oh.
No, it will be.
So it is going from 2 to 3 to 2.
Now,
It
when they're
is from about Maryville, from south, it is 2 lanes right now.
Correct.
Right.
that segment down to Highway 10 will become 3 lanes. From 10 south to Lafayette, it will be 2 lanes.
Correct.
Everything north of 10 will be 3 or 1. Okay.
So it's basically picking up to where it reduces now, south to 10.
If it helps, there's a map on page 74 in your packet as part of the environmental justice report that will show the expansion.
Anything else, Stephen?
Nope, that's it.
All right, this is not an action item. We just need to acknowledge, let the record show that we've received the public comment.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Continue, sir.
We do have several action items for consideration today. The first action is the approval of Resolution 1613, the adoption of the air quality conformity determination for I-65 added travel lanes project, found on pages 54 to 68. Scott Weber will describe the proposed resolution.
Thank you all. If you turn to page 54 to 68 in your packets, you can see the air quality conformity resolution that we're requesting of you this morning. This is a resolution to make the air quality conformity determination recommendation. This is actually formally approved by the Federal Highway Administration, but you all have a say in determining whether that goes forward. And in order to get this, because it's a capacity adding project, amended into our 2040 plan and our transportation improvement program, we needed to pass air quality conformity, which means showing in Lake and Porter counties that the emissions from the I-65 project will result in emissions for ozone and fine particles under the budgets approved in the state implementation plan. So far, NERC has worked with 5 other agencies: the Indiana Department of Transportation, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, the Federal Transit Administration, and the Federal Highway Administration, and the Indiana Department of Environmental Management and us have all worked to show that the project will result in emissions less than the budget. And if you turn to page 68, it shows a table for every 5 years, 2020 out to 2045, for those emissions and their precursors. And you can see that our emissions are at or under the budgets in every case in these 2 tables. Therefore, the recommendation is that this resolution be taken action on. And the Transportation Improvement our Transportation Policy Committee actually recommended at its March 15th meeting that this pass. So,
Okay, is there a motion on
Any questions?
1613?
I move that 1613 be adopted.
Is there a second?
Excuse me, just a little discussion before you vote. What Mayor McDermott was referring to or asking about, we already did this process with the Ileana to get all the way down to 2. What this is from 2 down to 10.
correct. Yes.
That's correct.
It's a good question. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify. Yes,
I
ma'am.
had a question. On this table, why are the emissions going down so drastically starting in 2020?
So the assumptions built into this are new enhanced inspection and maintenance programs and vehicle fleets that meet cleaner standards in the future. So there are assumptions built in. These are the latest assumptions that the state of Indiana uses across all its findings. And that would be, if you want to, I can refer you to the Indiana Department of Environmental Management for the specifics on those programs, but it's built into the calculations.
One other thing is that older cars drop off, so the older, more
Yeah.
polluting cars become obsolete at a certain point, and it's built into
Okay, discussion? Any further? All those in favor of 1613 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 1613 is adopted.
The second action is for the approval of Resolution 1614, the adoption of the environmental justice analysis for the I-65 added travel lanes project, found on pages 69 to 77. James Winters will describe this proposed resolution, and the Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on this resolution.
Hello. On page 69, we have Resolution 1614, which is to adopt the environmental justice analysis for the I-65 lane widening project. For those of you who don't know, environmental justice is not actually about the environment in a straightforward way. What it's actually about is making sure that federal funding isn't spent on anything that disproportionately affects minorities and low-income populations. Back in the 70s, we were really, really great at putting down highways right through low-income neighborhoods and minority neighborhoods, and that wasn't a very good thing. So in February of 1994, Bill Clinton passed an executive order that says that we have to do this kind of analysis if we're going to spend a significant amount of federal funding. So this analysis is found beginning on page 71, and it's broken up into 3 distinct parts. One is to make sure that the physical road that we're adding, it does not directly impact or intersect a low-income neighborhood or a minority population, or a concentration of those groups. The second part of the analysis was to make sure that the road project did not disproportionately affect that population. So making sure that if we put down an expanded highway, that their commute times of those people aren't greatly increased, that they will receive the same amount of benefit as everyone else. And lastly, we at NERC have had a difficult time trying to exactly quantify how urban sprawl and development on the urban periphery of our region can negatively impact, or does it actually impact, the urban core, and that would be where the environmental justice communities lay. So we tackled the analysis in 3 parts. One, as you can see on the map on page 74, the lane expansion was too far away from an environmental justice community to make an impact. So we gave it a gold star. Does not matter. Next, we looked at the types at different performance measures to impact that would impact how those communities could be affected by this project. So we looked at a specific number or types of opportunities within a 20-minute drive, types of opportunities for work trips, shopping trips, and a percent of the population within 20 minutes of a livable center, a retail center, a hospital, or university. And we calculated all the travel times in a build, no build scenario. And what we found was travel times were marginally increased, or marginally improved. So there was no disproportionate negative value for the environmental justice communities. And lastly, we looked at the existing land use policies of the communities closest to the lane expansion to see if it would disproportionately impact or have the potential for sprawl, which could create a disinvestment from our urban core communities. What we saw was that it was kind of a mixed bag. Lowell had some really great smart growth planning policies in place. Hebron had some great policies in place, but could use a little bit more guidance. And so in the analysis, what we did was we cited some examples from our Smart Tools handbook, and some tools that they can use to adopt to improve their smart growth a little bit so they don't sprawl out. Overall, we did not have a problem with the project, and you can read our entire report. It ends on page 77. It's not too long.
Is this recommended by the Transportation Policy Committee?
It is.
Page 1614 is before us. Is there a motion to approve it? So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. 1614 is adopted. Next item.
The third action is the approval of Resolution 1615, the adoption of the congestion management process for the I-65 added travel lanes project found on pages 78 to 87. Scott Weber will describe the proposed resolution.
Hello again. So if you turn to page 78 to 87, I believe in the packets, the resolution 16-15 talks about the congestion management process for the I-65 project. This is part of our 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan. It's also a federal requirement, since we're an area with over 200,000 people, that all the capacity adding projects that we amended into our plan show that the capacity adding alternative is the best way to relieve congestion, better than any other alternative, such as demand management strategies like enhanced carpooling or transportation systems management strategies like tolling or congestion pricing. So what we have to show is that the only way to adequately relieve congestion in this corridor, from all the way from US 30 down to State Road 10, but specifically today focusing on the part from State Road 2 to State Road 10, the best way to relieve that congestion is indeed to add a third lane to the highway, each direction. And so if you look at page 82, NERC has a 12-step process for their congestion management process, but 4 areas are bolded because those are the ones that are relevant to a project congestion management process, which this is. So we collect data, we identify the area of application, as I said, State Road 2 to State Road 10. We evaluate the growth and development scenarios in the context of the CRP to identify the future congestion management problems, and then we identify and evaluate strategies. And so what we did for this analysis was we looked at the existing level of service in the corridor, which is right now level service B, and by the way, the scale is A to F. A is better, F is worse. And going out to 2040 in Table 2, we show that if nothing is done in that corridor, the level of service will be at C. So you can see that it gets a little bit worse. Not terrible, but worse. And then we look at Table 3, the projected congestion conditions. If we only implement demand management strategies by 2040, we still are at a level of service of C. Table 4 shows that even if we added in transportation system strategies to that mix, we still don't improve any over doing nothing. We're still at a level of service C in 2040. Finally, in Tables 5, we can see if we actually build the project, widen the project, and by 2040, it's operating at level service B, which means that we've achieved the same level we are now in 2040. So that shows that adding a lane indeed is what will adequately relieve congestion. Also, we looked at a case study because, it's one thing to say this is what we think will happen, but the case study on page 86 was we looked at a project that actually was built in New Jersey, a similar kind of situation where it's on the periphery of an urban area, where they added 1 lane in each direction to I-95. And using probe data, we were able to show that some metrics like travel time, delayed hours, mean speed, and median speed were all a little bit better after the project was built. Particularly, delayed hours improved by 73% by adding 1 travel lane in each direction. This was a slightly different project since they already had 3 lanes in each direction. They were expanding to 4. This would expand from 2 to 3 lanes in each direction. But as you can see, we would expect to see a similar type of result in improving mobility, and such that much more so by adding a lane, it looks like, than from our analysis, than just these other strategies. So with that, this resolution is just an action item to show that this analysis shows that adding a travel lane is indeed the best option, that it passed the congestion management process here. Thank you. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, is this recommended by TPC?
The Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on Resolution 1650.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. Now discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's related to this resolution or not. I just had a question in general about the widening project. Because, we already have a pretty short median, and, we harp on the table strip areas all the time. I imagine if we're increasing 1 lane on each side, that's going to make the median even smaller between northbound and southbound I-65. So are we going to do something about safety so that we can prevent the number of crossovers? Is there going to be like a concrete barrier instead of the cable that sometimes is sitting in our limb?
We'll direct that to our NDOT person.
It seems to me like if we're going to get it smaller on the median, knowing the volume of traffic we have on that street, it's going to be going even faster with 3 lanes. We should have a more permanent barrier to prevent crossovers. To me,
Unless the extended lane is on the outside.
well, still.
I don't know.
I don't have the design.
That is the case. There's enough room on the shoulder that we can accommodate those extra lanes, so
you're
that's
going away from
on the far shoulder, correct. That's the point.
Evidently, then the plan is to leave the median the same size, but extend on the sides.
Sir, for the record, would you identify yourself?
Matt Deitchley, Communications Director.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, good question. Good answer.
We all drive on 65.
Yeah.
So let's make it as safe as possible.
I like the solution a lot better than the alternative. First, any other discussion? We have a motion and a second on 1615. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. 1615 is adopted. Next item.
The fourth action is the approval of Resolution 1616, the second amendment to the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan Update Companion, down on pages 80 to 90. Mitch Barloga will describe this amendment.
Thank you, and good morning. You've approved the air quality conformity, you've approved the environmental justice analysis, you've just approved the congestion management process, and now the actual approval for the amendment to the comprehensive plan for the widening of I-65 from US 30 to State Route 10, DeMont-Roselawn exit. There has been already enough discussion and dialogue about it. I do not need to belabor it any further, so I will leave it up to all of you to ask any additional questions before voting.
The Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on Resolution 1616.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve. And a second. Now we have questions, discussion.
I have a question, and I didn't vote on the last one verbally, but the 2040 plan, the gist of it is to spend money on the north end of the county and not keep spreading south. So by adding another lane with 65, the discussion came up with Ileana, came up with other things. And so I drive to Indianapolis, and I would appreciate the third lane, but as our 2040 plan and trying to reinvigorate up here and not continue our southerly movement for the population, this seems to fly in the face of the whole idea of the 2040 plan. And so in my conscience of supporting the 2040 process and the whole thing and the gist of it, I'm going to vote against it. It won't matter except to me. So.
I'd like to address Commissioner Benson. Previously, you heard James Winters talk about the environmental justice analysis. When we sat down and talked about that, there's a number of factors that we are, by federal law, supposed to analyze. We took it another step to deal with sprawl issues, because you're right, our 2040 plan is very sensitive about sprawl and about building up our existing infrastructure, infill development, and strengthening our core communities. Those are the foundations of our 2040 plan, hence why we produced that type of extra analysis in the environmental justice report. As James had talked about, we were able to decipher that there are good policies in place, especially in the town of Lowell, regarding smart growth, and we're hoping that we can encourage Lake County Plan Commission, as well as Cedar Lake and other communities along that corridor, to enforce those as well, hopefully not having the sprawling situation as you're mentioning here. And that's about as far as we could take it regarding the 2040 analysis and due diligence, so to speak.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Benson. During Ileana, I voted against the adoption, and I'm going to vote against it today as well for the same reasons. Not because I don't think that I-65 widening is a good project, but I agree with Commissioner Benson. We had this discussion during Ileana, and I voted against it then, and I'm going to vote for Commissioner Benson today.
Okay. Any other discussion?
The Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on Resolution 1616.
Okay. I have a motion. Okay.
Or then this was
Right,
discussed.
that's why there's discussion. Yeah.
We had a
Thrown off by the discussion. Already done that.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, I'm
Yes.
looking back at my notes, and from what I have, Mayor Milo made the motion, and Mayor McDermott made the second.
I withdraw my second.
I anticipated.
Likely seconding.
I anticipated that.
I'll make it second.
So we have a second for Mayor.
But it will be a comfort to the mayor that his second doesn't mean a second in parliamentary procedure. It just means you want to discuss. Do you want the opportunity to vote no? And that's why you
I wouldn't want you to have both sides of the issue. A different second is better.
You make the motion, it'll be different, but second.
We do have a second, and we've had our discussion. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Raise your hands, please, no.
Controversy if there's
Sorry. Motion passes.
One last item, Mr. Chairman. Last month, I passed out the copies of the update companion. I'm going to pass out the balance of those to the commissioners who were not there last month, so please excuse me for sneaking around and passing you booklets, but thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Okay, this is a democratic process after all.
Absolutely.
The fifth action is the approval of Resolution 1617, the 17th amendment to the fiscal year 2016-2019 Transportation Improvement Program for the I-65 at a travel lane project found on pages 91 to 93. Gary Evers will describe this amendment.
I'm substitute, I know, I changed.
It's hysterical.
I am covering for Gary Evers today, so bear with me, please be gentle. On pages 91 to 93 of your agenda packet, you have the amendment, as Commissioner Breisky said, for adding the I-65 added travel lanes project to the current transportation improvement program. And the list kind of that breaks everything down, you can see on page 93 of your agenda packet. And that is it.
The Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on Resolution 1617.
I make a motion to approve the Transportation Improvement Program Amendment number 17.
Second. And a second. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
The sixth action is the approval of Resolution 1618, the 20th amendment to the fiscal year 2016-2019 Transportation Improvement Program, found on pages 94 to 97. And Gary Evers, or Steve Sesteric, will describe this.
So, as Commissioner Breisky said, pages 94 to 97, you will find this amendment. The list of projects itself is on pages 96 and 97. As you can see there, they are all INDOT projects that we are being asked to add.
The Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on Resolution 1618.
Is there a motion on 18?
Move to approve.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second on 18. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved. The resolution is approved. Next.
Thank you.
Before I begin, is Belinda Petrosky here?
Yep.
The final action is the approval of Resolution 1620, the 23rd amendment to the fiscal year 2016-2019 Transportation Improvement Program for 5310 projects for LaPorte County, found on pages 98 to 100. Belinda Petrosky will describe this proposed amendment.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. As advertised, the list of projects is on page 100, actually. The 5310 program is split into two pots of money. We get one pot of money that's assigned to the urbanized area in Lake Porter counties, and then the state of Indiana handles applications for that pot of money for the balance of the state. Applicants for this project, these funds are required to meet locally in a transit advisory committee structure, which in LaPorte County they do. They meet quarterly and have been for a number of years. So all three of these agencies listed have participated, have met the requirements, and are eligible in LaPorte County. The state selects these projects, and we were notified right after the TPC meeting that they'd made the selection for fiscal year 16 funds. And as you see here, they are awarded again to Michiana Resources, LaPorte County Comprehensive Mental Health, and Parents and Friends. I'll be happy to answer any questions. These projects were found consistent with and supportive of the needs analysis in LaPorte County that's now a couple of years old, but these still contribute to meeting the needs identified in that report. as is the case everywhere. We have highly insufficient amount of public transit, particularly for disabled and elderly, that this program serves.
The Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on Resolution 1620.
Is there a motion on 20?
Move to approve.
Second. A motion and a second. Discussions or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. 1620.
Mr. Chairman, the next meeting date of the Transportation Policy Committee will be Tuesday, June 14th at 9 a.m. That's Tuesday, June 14th at 9 a.m. here at the NERC offices.
Thank you for your report, sir. Item number 9 is the NDOT report.
Well, that would be me, and again, if I'm not loud enough, let me know. I know I have this voice issue, so. Basically, we're ongoing to the Representative Solidays point, which, by the way, I think everybody already knows just how blessed we are to have Representative Solidays serving us here and his interest in transportation. I don't think I've ever met an elected official more engaged in transportation issues than Representative Solidays, so a personal thanks. I mean, he didn't even pay me or anything. I just appreciate his insight into things that are going on when I talk to him. He is always on point and always knows what we're doing. I don't know how he retains it all, but thank you, Representative. I appreciate it. Your help to the department and help to this community. That being said, NDOT in this region is fully focused on maintenance. The mayor, I knew, he always, as you know that, Mayor McDermott's going to keep me on cable barrier. I drove 65 last night coming back from Indy. Everywhere but the construction zones is up. The construction zones are down because of construction. So they'll be up with a new barrier and a new style. I think I reported last month we had some parts issues. We're actually able to repurpose some parts from the Crawfordsville district because of the construction area and move them north and make repairs. Actually, as late as last week, I think we had 3 crews out. So we should be looking good there. Looked pretty good last night again, except in the construction zones. But down cable, it's not pretty. Mowing, herbicide, sweeping is all underway. It is the season, so the alligators are out. We're out picking them up as quickly as we can and moving on with potholes, crack sealing, bridge maintenance, culvert. It's all moving as we sit here now. From the construction perspective, you already know from Illinois to Michigan, 94 is in some state of repair or construction, ranging from bridge repair, bridge painting, decks, resurfacing. It's a major project, and we're doing it all at once because we want to inconvenience everyone because of that corridor all at once and not have this a protracted issue over several years. So it was done with intent. This is not, let's upset everybody in 2016. It's just we are trying to get it done so that in the out years, we're not having to deal with this incrementally. So we realize it. I know the toll road, which would have been an alternative, is also making a major investment in maintenance and resurface. So it is a difficult time at this moment. But again, I'd like to keep in mind the vision when it's done. The vision, when the barrels are gone, this will be a good thing and the road will improve and capacity will improve. We will, I know this is a often discussed topic since a General Assembly came out of session. In fact, I'll be surprised if the representative doesn't offer more information here even. But on the 31st of May at the LaPorte District Office at 315 East Boyd, we'll have 2 sessions on the funding, local funding. There'll be educational sessions for any of you that are in the area that may be interested in your asset management plan, how to develop one, what the funding is, how the funding will be administered, what the requirements are for the locals to make application, and so on. There will be 2 sessions, one at 10 to 11:30, and then the second session will go from 1 p.m. to 2:30. In addition to the funding education, if you will, and that side of the application, the asset management plan, if you need assistance, we'll be doing some project updates in the region as well. So we'll have our transportation support director there offering just kind of a general education session for those 2 sessions. So please mark those on your calendar. I don't know if matter invites going out, or is it just
I believe many of them have gone out.
Okay.
If you have not got one, feel free to let me know.
Okay, and again, if you haven't, come anyway. If you're interested, be there. We want to educate as much as possible. I think I'm also attending a meeting next month at the dairy. who's meeting there? At Fair Oaks, I'm sorry, yes. Anyway, there's a meeting next month where we'll also be adding another session similar to this. So if you're not able to make these two, you may want to attend that session, and I forget the date, forgive me. Do you know that date, Matt?
Off the top of my head, no.
I know there's another one in June. But these two coming up on the 31st will be as much education as you would want. Kathy McAuliffe will be up from central office and will answer any questions you may have and assist you. Did you want to add anything, Representative? Or?
Yeah, I did.
Okay,
I figured you were a number of myths out there that hopefully we can clarify, at least for you all. And I'm not picking on the Times. They have more barrels of ink than I could ever. But the article on 1001 and the editorial are incorrect. You do not have to pass a wheel tax to get matching money. There are 4 options. One, you can use the rebate money, and Lake County is going to get quite a bit from the Lowett withholding. Number 2, you can use Lowett money. Number 3, you can use wheel tax money. And number 4, you can use rainy day fund money. So those 4 options. Now the part that has been confusing, I have a little stakeholder group that I meet with at least once a month, have for 5 years, tired of looking at me, just to hear problems they're having now. Since all of you are friends of mine, Tom particularly is a friend of mine, he declared it at the hearings, so I'm counting on that. There is about $186 million in matching money this year, half of which goes to smaller counties. I think there's going to be a lot of demand for match. Now, contrary to popular belief, we took another 1.5 cents from the gasoline sales tax and moved it over for the future, so there will be $100 million of matching money every year going forward. Okay? So next year's anomalous, it'll be 68 million, but so much money is flowing in this year just because of how we made this work, there will be 100 million at least. Now keep in mind the 50% split to smaller counties, that number, that came by divine revelation. There is absolutely no data to support that's the right place to draw the line. We'll find out how that works. But there is no reversion. So that money is there for locals. Second of all, from day one, we said that it was a partnership. The state wasn't going to raise the money and locals spend it. I mean, you need 51 votes in the House and 26 in the Senate, and we got the best we could get. So one of the confusing things that is out there is misinterpretation. In order to be able to draw on the wheel tax starting this January, you must pass a resolution by July 1, not on July 1, but actually by June 30. Now, if you can wait because you've got money coming in through other sources, if you want to wait and pass it in July or August, or not pass it at all, then the first money you can draw will be in 2018.
Wow.
Okay, so you have an 18-month wait. Wow. But remember, it's huge cash. For some counties, it's huge cash infusion from the Lowett reserve account. So you may look at your money and say, don't need to do it. So one is get your applications in. Right? We had discussions back and forth. I think the rough cap is going to be $1 million of matching money. The project can be 10. Here's where I think we have agreement with INDOT. Pretty clean process. You will have a 1-pager to fill out. You send it down. Priority is going to be given to preservation and maintenance, but they will fund, as long as it's roads and bridges, they will, and we have the money, they'll fund it. You fill it out, you send it down. If your project's approved, they stamp it approved, they tell you so. The day you sign the contract for the project, they will issue the check. If you go over budget, it's on you. If you go under budget, keep the money. So there's not the normal state
all of the rigmarole that you have to go through with the state. Looking at the NDOT guys, I think they understand it the same way I do. You get the money, you sign the contract, you get the money. They do not want to be sitting on money. All of us want this project to work. There are some nefarious folks betting that it won't. I think it will. I've been pretty adamant that if the application process gets too arcane so that you have to hire a beauty consultant, we're going to change the law. So, and for those of you who are wishing for my demise, I have trained others to take my anyway, the area of confusion is here. The law says you must pass the ordinance if you want money in 2017. You must pass it before July 1. Now, in the match, it says that you have to have new money for the wheel tax, and it has to be an ordinance. What it says is the effective date of the change in rate must be after July 1. Well, it's impossible for you to have any date. Other folks were saying, well, you guys created a trap and we can't get our money because if we pass the ordinance, then it'll be old money. No. The trigger is when the rate changes, and that rate cannot change before January 1, 2017. So there is no trap, there is no trick, and NDOT's assured me they're going to be flexible because in that approval process. So if you're on a track to pass an ordinance, pass it, or not, whatever the case is. It's a tool for you to use. There was no, we're going to force them into using this. You use, again, best deal I could get. So
to reiterate what you said, and I think you said it very clearly, but I'd just like to hear it again.
Okay.
That you don't have to pass a wheel tax in order to get matching funds.
Absolutely.
There are 3 other ways to do it.
3 other ways to do it. And the one that you are more experienced, all of you, than I am, and that is the rainy day fund. So we are trying to work with the ELGF to see the world is made up of some gray besides just black and white, which is a challenge that never stops.
So you had mentioned $1 million cap. Is that $1 million cap per project or per municipality? What exactly is that?
It is per project. Let me be, my understanding in talking with the chief of staff is bundling may be an option.
Bundling with other communities?
No, it's not a project. You may have this, the one thing that's, let's say you've got some intersection issues, they may be able to be approved if there's some logic to them hanging together. There is one thing that I and Senator Kenley and Chairman Brown are pretty adamant about. Some creative cities said, well, under the asset management plan, sewers and water are mentioned, so can we get matching money for sewers and water? The answer is no. We're going to deal with that issue. It's never the intent. It's the Roads and Bridges Act. Now here's the latitude we've had discussions with NDOT about. If you have a project and underneath it is a 100-year-old sewer and your street is 100 feet wide, we're not asking you to leave 100-foot. Part of the project is to put a new pipe in there. We think that's within the bounds of what we were trying to do. We don't want you then to come in and tear the new street up. But if the project is 20 feet of paving and 1,000 feet of new water pipes, it probably is not going to get rated real high in the priority list. So
with $1 million per project, is that considering a 50% match?
No, we will give you up to $1 million. It can be a $10 million project. Sure. Okay. But what we are going to use to assure that you have the match is we're going to look at the contract. The contract can be for whatever, but we will only match up to $1 million so that we're sure we've got money for all the applicants, okay? Or as many as possible.
And when is the application supposed to be released?
Well, my understanding is, and Rick can correct me, they're going to do the call for projects for federal money in May, and they didn't want to do it at the same time and create a lot of confusion, so there'll be a call for projects in June. Okay, so that's why I've been urging those of you who called me, get them in, guys. If you want the match, get it in. And I've seen the draft of the questionnaire. I don't know that it's ready to be handed out, but I would assume you'll talk about the questionnaire on the 31st.
That's part of that's the meeting. That's why we're having the meeting.
Do we know what level of engineering design we need submitted with the application?
I don't at this point.
I think it will be minimal because we get right back to the beauty contest.
It's going to come to the point of what does the project entail and what's the cost. And again, to get us to a point of getting to the match. And what we will, or the cap, I should say, more so than that.
Should require, do not think of it in terms of other state projects. That is not how we're structuring it. If you go with an open mind, we are trying to not make you bring in that level of detail as part of the application process, because that immediately forces you into consulting services that's your business.
The key will be follow through.
The question I asked was, does it require a road study? And that was the answer to my question.
My answer is, I don't believe so. The questionnaire I saw didn't require that. Remember, the emphasis is on preservation and maintenance, Jim. So, and our pitch to the legislature was, we have many cities and towns out there with roads that are 50 years old, and they don't have the revenues to even take care of them. So our emphasis this year was on preservation and maintenance. So if you're building new roads.
So, okay, in Griffith's case, we paved nearly every road in town the last 2 years, and we do have some money left over from a bond issue. Would our money be able to use as a match?
The 4 things are listed in the act. They're going to hold you those 4 things.
We're good in rainy day first.
Okay, anything, Mayor?
None of the new one, yeah, give it over to debt service.
Just for clarification, that if a community chooses not to go forward with a wheel tax, say they choose to just use their distribution as the local match or their whatever the case. That match is for. If they do not pass the wheel tax before the June 30th, they won't be penalized, will they, as far as access to the funds come January 1/17? No. Okay, that's
their choice. The mayors who were part of that coalition that came to meet with me and the IAC this is a tool we'd like to have at our disposal because it's hard to get counties to pass things that affect one individual city. There's no intent, contrary to popular belief, that we're trying to force you into a wheel tax. That is a tool in your toolkit, but you have other tools. There are 3 others.
Mr. Chairman, can you repeat those 3 other options?
I'll ask the Representative Sullivan.
Senate Bill 67, the rebate of the LOIT money, LOIT reserve money. The EDIT money, we added that. There were 3 options for local option income tax. We added a 4th, which was so roads and bridges could be part of it. Rainy day fund and wheel tax. And counties that have a wheel tax can double the amount of that wheel tax. And just for clarification, the wheel tax on a vehicle, the maximum is $25 for a city, and the gasoline tax we were proposing would have yielded about $25 per vehicle, additional tax. So the money was about the same, but moving to 2025, if we use current revenue methods, you would almost have to, not almost, you would probably have to double the gasoline tax. So, I mean, we have a crisis coming in water and sewer, and we have a cliff when it comes to infrastructure starting in 2021 that, as we projected it out, just gets perpetually worse.
So just make clear that we could not use MVH dollars, casino dollars, or any other revenue?
Cannot use state money to match state money.
Great, okay.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I was under the understanding too that one of the other requirements is that we had to be on the Pacer road maintenance system for the state.
No, you don't have to be on Pacer. You must have an asset management plan. There's several reasons for that. Number one, the feds are going to make you do it for matching money probably within 2 years, so it's going to happen anyway. Number two, one of our weaknesses in making a case for local road funding is the weakness of the data. So the Pacer is the cheapest. It's free. I mean, you go down there and they'll give you a course and you can use it. Now, other counties like Hamilton have killed a fatted calf, and they have a very fancy one that keeps track of everything. But what we want from you is the 6 pieces of data that tell us what's the condition of local roads, so when we go in to argue, we can say, here's where we're maintaining the states to, here's where the locals are able to maintain. And right now, all we have is an LTAP study that's about 6 years old, and it was an extrapolated study. Now, again, I think it's a good study. I think it would pass peer review, but there have been folks that said, oh, it's only 8 counties, so it doesn't matter. So that's the point, Jeff. And you should be able to put, Porter County is the 9th largest in the state, I believe, so now you're getting into some things, but the average county should be able to do it fairly inexpensively.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Jared, I have a question.
Can we go to Jeff first? Then I'll come back.
The matching money can only be used on roads that are designated with NDOT or on any local road.
Any local road, I mean, I don't think you can use it on private roads, but that's not the intent.
The idea is for local road improvement. I mean, that's the whole point.
We had to have a vehicle to disperse the money. We're trying to keep it separate from normal NDOT matching things.
I'm sorry, you may have said this, but what was the ordinance that needs to be passed before July 1st?
If you want to pass a wheel tax as a community, city, town, municipality above 10,000 population, you must pass the ordinance before July 1 to be eligible for the money starting in January 1 of 2017. You can pass it anytime you want, it's just when do you want to start collecting the money?
So if you're not going to pass a wheel tax, but you still want to apply for these funds, there's no ordinance that needs to be addressed. Okay.
Mayor Snedeker.
I just wanted to give a word of caution on communities that are rushing to pass the wheel tax. Many of your communities, your license or your address, your zip code area extends out over areas outside your corporate boundaries. I can almost assure you, the Bureau of Motor Vehicles is not going to extract that for you to tell them who should be given that wheel tax versus somebody else. Good example, I use us in Maryville. I have 2 license bureaus in our city. Many people in our southern half of our community have a Maryville address. Maryville can't tax them a wheel tax if they pass it for their town. So to think that the Bureau of Motor Vehicles are going to do all this work for you, I got news for you, I don't think they will. You're going to have to work with some type, maybe a third party, to get the information to them on how they're going to do that. And maybe, Ed, you can answer that.
Well, we can go ahead and answer this question, and then we'll get to review the times of the meetings and maybe other questions taken to the meeting.
Let me answer that for you, Brian. Several communities wanted a rough number, and they used zip code, which was a bad idea to do that. They are already talking to several software companies that have been used in other states. I think the one uses parcel location data. I talked to them as late as yesterday, their general counsel and their operations guy. They won't have it for you to make an estimate, but by January 1, they will have an accurate who lives in the city limits and who does not. Zip code was just a rough cut, So that, and you were particularly difficult. Valpo is difficult. I mean, I have 65,000 people in my district, which is 3 townships, and Valpo is only 35,000 of them, right? And that's 2 zip codes. So we hear the problem, and we had this conversation with them before we ever started. So.
This is a very engaging topic, and we could go on, but NDOT is providing meetings on the 31st.
To cover the very things the representative spoke about. Which is again back to my previous point. I told you you've forgotten more than most of us will ever know about infrastructure. So
if I could encourage us, those of us that still have questions, to attend those meetings.
Please, and we will offer assistance with developing an asset management plan. Again, that's kind of the point, is to bring us all on point so that everybody has an opportunity to avail themselves of these funds. So anything we can do is not just to provide information, just to provide assistance as well. So I would encourage you. The meeting times again were 10 to 11:30. The second session is 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. on the 31st.
NDOT, they're on the same page in terms of what we're trying to accomplish with the matches and everything?
Yes.
I think they are, since NDOT funds them.
Yes. Yes.
It'll be there.
There is a corrective methodology.
Is there any other business to come before the commission from the tree commissioner at this point? As we move on?
I guess I just want to make one follow-on statement that I guess can fall into the other business category, that we've had a lot of good discussion about road transportation. It's a key issue area that's been discussed at great length for the duration of this year and for many months leading up to it. And I certainly very much appreciate the work of Representative Soliday, the feedback from Mr. Powers, and all the conversation that's gone on. Because it's a public forum, we have many public officials here. I think that it's important for us to continue to remark upon, there was a lot of clarification made that there's not a requirement for a wheel tax to be adopted, but I think that it's also important that it's understood of the need that is there for local road funding. And for the communities that don't believe that they need to address a local wheel tax, then I'm very glad that those communities feel that they're in that position to be able to look to some of the other tools. I would say from a perspective of a community that needs basically all of those tools to be able to even start to address the need of our road maintenance issues, that I'm appreciative of some tools being provided to locals this year. I'm encouraged by the conversations that are continuing to move forward, and in the stakeholder meetings that Representative Soliday is holding, the Blue Ribbon Commission that's going to happen this summer, and the continued conversations that I've been assured are going to move forward in the General Assembly session next year because there is such a need. So I'm glad to hear that there are some communities that may feel that there is not a need, but I think that it's also important for us to recognize in these forums that there are communities that are, as we are looking in the city of LaPorte, that will fully leverage all of our LOIT reserves and every dollar that we can. And that gets us to maybe $2 million in the next couple of years, of which I need $17 million to even get just our 113 road miles up to an acceptable condition. So please understand that there is a difference in some of these communities of tools available, and that's where I think that there's great opportunity and the flexibility that's coming forward here.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Public comment, we have David Wright. David, come on up, take the podium.
Okay. I'll try to be quick considering the length of the last conversation. David Wright, I'm here representing the Gary Public Transportation Corporation, and I'd like to pass this down to Mr. Powers. At previous meetings, there's been some discussion, especially during public comment, about the standing water issue on 4th and 5th Avenues in Gary since the repaving. We have a particular concern with I think it's the southeast corner, 5th and Broadway. And our board of directors directed me to write a letter to the Indiana Department of Transportation about that in particular. The standing water issue, especially I want to say maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, where it sat there for about a week. And that does have a large impact on the boarding and the lighting of 2 of our more significant routes. specifically Route 13, which connects downtown Gary to Emerson, Miller, and Etna. It has probably our highest local ridership for our local routes in our entire system. And it also connects and provides transfers at that location to our Broadway system, which, is the heaviest traveled bus system in the area. So what we'd like specifically is to find out either from NDOT or utility companies the exact nature of the problem at that specific location, the responsible parties for solving it, and an estimated timeline for correcting it. Because after a major rainstorm, it's just impossible for that bus to actually get to the bus stop to allow people to board. They may have to walk an additional half block in some cases. And again, that location is where our highest capacity local service connects with our highest capacity regional service. So this is just to put it on the record at the full commission and to formally request those actions be followed up by NDOT. Doesn't necessarily have to be in this meeting. Give us a call. Our number is actually on the letter. But it came up during our last board of directors meeting, and I was directed specifically to put something together and have it addressed. And because it's come up at this meeting here, I figured this would be the most appropriate follow-up. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wright. And I'll take that, you've been taking under advisement. And point of privilege, I'm going to allow Mr. Nowacki he wanted to speak.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for being late. My name is Jim Nowacki. I'm a resident of the city of Gary. And I'm disappointed to hear at the meeting today one of the speakers speaking from, I guess, from NDOT, right, NDOT, yeah, telling me that the definition of environmental justice has nothing to do with the environment or justice. I'm confused, but I listen very carefully so that I can learn. I'm glad that Mr. Wright had brought, and I'm also disappointed about comments from Mr. Soliday saying that some of this road money doesn't necessarily mean that it cannot necessarily be used for sewers underneath the road. So we just kind of pave over the old sewers and hope that we don't have a problem with it. And I think that these two issues are connected, and we have to look at them connected. I'm glad that Mr. Wright brought up the issue that I'd complained about before this board and complained about at the Gary Public Transportation regarding not just this standing water, the project from one end of the 1220 project to the other. And we're talking about everything from signage and signaling, we're talking about the curbs and gutters, we're talking about the deterioration of the roadway, we're talking about the development of potholes, we're talking about how just months after the road was completed, the utilities came in and tore the whole thing up. But I want to talk today about the issue that Mr. Wright had brought up regarding this standing water problem. And it goes for 4 blocks. It goes all the way on the south side of 5th Avenue from Broadway all the way to the baseball stadium. And and after a rain and for a week afterwards, those puddles may be between 10 and 15 feet wide, covering an entire lane of traffic. Now, I know that coming to these meetings and complaining and complaining and complaining sounds like it's fruitless. But actually it can be very, very effective. For instance, just recently, NDOT came out to that intersection to address this problem, and they put up a big 4-foot by 4-foot sign, big orange sign with letters saying, "High water." Well, the problem is obvious enough that you didn't need a big 4 by 4-foot sign. I appreciate the interest, but really what we needed was the problem to be solved, not a big sign. So what I do is, as I go as far and as fast as my legs carry me, so I walked there, and at one point, I put my nose just about this close to the stagnant water, about 6 or 8 inches deep, and put my nose that I could peer down, and I saw that one of the sewers was blocked by a piece of that geofabric that the contractors use so that material can't go down the sewers. Now, I don't know if Mr. Powers understands, or Mr. Soliday with all his vast experience, understands that after the road work is done, you remove the geofabric so stuff can go down the sewers. So I don't like to just bring the problems, I also like to bring the solutions. This cannot be that hard. I think at one point they did clean out the sewers, and it alleviated the problem briefly. But obviously they didn't spend enough cleaning out enough of the sewers. So here, with the interest of Mr. Wright and the Gary Public Transportation, public comment from interested members of the citizens of Gary, working together for a solution, there's no reason why a brand new $40 million road should be in this condition. And I know it has nothing to do with environmental justice, as the INDOT understands it, but it has an awful lot to do with environmental justice as I understand it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nowacki. Any announcements at this point? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, for 6 years, Jeff Benson has been serving admirably as a member of the Board of Directors of the National Association of Regional Councils. And he has been encouraged, and he has decided to seek a leadership position in NARC. So at the annual conference of NARC to be held in Salt Lake City on June the 26th through the 30th, Jeff is going to stand for election as the Senior Vice President in NARC. We hope that as many of you as possible we hope that as many of you as possible can get out there to Salt Lake City and campaign and vote for Jeff. He does have a challenger, but I don't think anybody's going to vote for the candidate. Nevertheless, upon his successful election, then that will leave a vacancy on the Board of Directors, and the Honorable Blair Milo has stepped forward and said that she would like to become a member of the Board of Directors of NARC, so she too will be standing for election out in Salt Lake City.
It's a very good thing to have local representation on that NARC board. And it would be to our advantage and our honor to have these individuals represented. You release your introduction. All right, one last.
For the good of the order, please.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, for the good of the order. First, I want to congratulate my colleagues. I hope that, I think we'll be well represented there, and if it's a merit system you're in, I hope that happens for you. So, I just want to make two quick announcements. I'm president or chairman of the board of directors of the Northwest Indiana American Red Cross. I was asked to extend an invitation to all of you. They're going to have an open house at our local offices in Maryville. I should have the address at the top of my head. I don't, but I can pull it up from my phone if you're interested. We're going to have the regional president from Indianapolis there today. It's a big deal for us. Tomorrow is the birthday, Saturday is the birthday of the American Red Cross movement. The 21st is that. We're about 135 years old. And in Indiana, we're 100 years old. So I want to extend that. And to my Lake County friends and colleagues, you'll be getting a letter from me very soon. I'm a volunteer in the Indiana Bicentennial Commission Lake County Committee, which is chaired by Katie Holderby and Larry Blanchard. And we've been approved as a legacy project to actually display the 20-star flag of Indiana, which is the 1818 flag, United States flag, which is the first flag that depicted the star that included Indiana. It would have been a 19th star because we're the 19th state, but that darn Mississippi got in there, and so it was the 20th star just after us. I'll be contacting you because we're going to try to do that. So sometime in July, we'll have a ceremony to raise them for all the communities, and I'll be giving you more information about that, so be watching for that. We may be seeking you to use a little teeny bit of your income, your innkeeper tax money to fund the project for everybody, but I think we're going to get a donor for the flags. So be watching for that, and I thank the chair and my colleagues for allowing me to make the announcement.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the information. Will someone please make a motion for adjournment? Second. Don't forget, pick up your committee assignments in the lobby from Mary.